my little angels, come on in. Oh, I forgot to put my headphones in. I'm happy to see everybody here, and I'm so glad to see some new people. Thank you so much for giving my channel a chance. I really, really appreciate it. And if you like what you see, feel free to like it, to share it. Comments are amazing, and I do try to answer all comments. And definitely subscribe. I really want my channel to grow and reach more people, and we can have an even bigger Aunty Angel family. And for those of you that are returning, and I see you, I know you, thank you. Thank you so very much for coming back. I don't even know how to thank you guys enough. You mean the world to me, so thank you. And now in my last video, a chat about this and that, I did show some postcards that I've received from all over, and we did talk about our Christmas card exchange. So as of November 1st, oh hell, as of now, till December 20th, if you send me a holiday card, I will send you a Christmas card back because I celebrate Christmas. But you send me whatever you celebrate. I think that's the best part about connecting, is that we really get to know each other and we show that this great big world becomes smaller. And my P.O. box is in the description and my email. So, you guys look like you could use some sleep. And I would like very much to help you fall asleep. I'm not very good at this part, but I'm working on it. So, I can see that you are tired and you are tired and I think you all need some sleep. So, here's what we're gonna do. I have a couple of new books. Again, chicken soup books, but I love them, okay? This is who I am. For those of you that are new, when I read to you guys, or when we just need to do it, we practice a breathing technique, and we do this so that our brain will be trained to tell our body when to calm down, when to slow down. And we can do this when we want to rest or relax, when we're feeling anxious, or when we just need that moment away from the craziness to just for us. And I'll walk you through how to do it. And then I choose books like this. Whoops. Today we have two. Life Lessons from the Dog and Life Lessons from the Cat. And I'm hoping that everybody likes them. And for those that are new, I choose books like these because they have no pictures. And that way you can just close your eyes and go to sleep. You don't have to stare at the screen. You can just listen to me read you to sleep. And I never pre-select the stories. You can celebrate whatever higher power you believe in. I have faith that I'm going to open this book and I will land on a story that somebody listening needs to hear. And maybe it's you, or you, or you, or you, or you over there hiding in the back. I see you. Okay, so let's get our room ready. So first thing, get your lighting the way you like it, whether it's dark or light, a little bit of light, whatever it is you like. Okay. The only thing that I say, guys, is no lit candles. Not when you're trying to relax or trying to sleep. It can be dangerous. I personally use these battery operated ones. Now I got these from Amazon, but I've seen them at the dollar store too. So they're safer and I don't have to worry about you guys. And my owl. I think I'm gonna get another one because I think my owl is lonely. So, and yeah, so now we're gonna do our breathing. Oh no, first we're gonna get comfortable. So pick a spot, whether it's a bed, a chair, a couch, a chaise, a hammock, sleeping bag, cushions on the floor. Whatever makes you comfortable, just be comfortable. Let your body just sink into it, okay? And if you want, even wear a sleep mask, if you want. And now we're going to do our breathing. And the way we do that is we breathe in through our nose for a count of 4. We gently hold it, just a gentle hold for a count of 4. And then we breathe out slowly through pursed lips for a count of 4. If you can only do 1 or 2, you do you, boo. My daughter hates when I say that. But this is about making you comfortable. Okay, so let's start. Breathe in. Gently hold. 101 Tales of Family, Friendship, and Fun. Life Lessons from the Cat by Amy Newmark. And it says, royalties from this book will go to the American Humane First to Serve. And the dog one does too as well, so I think that's great. So, speed bump. Oh, I hope this isn't sad, but anyways. The quote is from Ray LeBlanc. You learn something every day if you pay attention. I believe that. Okay. For weeks, I checked the shelter website daily to see if her photo was still there. I had mixed emotions every time I began scrolling through the photos. I always hope that animals at shelters are adopted into loving homes. But this time, in my heart, I wanted our home to be the one this adorable cat moved into. If her photo was gone, I'd always wonder what happened to her. I'd also feel terrible knowing I didn't follow my heart and adopt her. I didn't need to adopt another cat. It hadn't even crossed my mind until I saw the picture of this precious cat with short legs and an imploring expression that tugged at my heart. With all her cuteness, I was certain she would be adopted quickly. I was wrong. I'd been checking the website for at least 2 weeks, and she was still there. I knew her time was limited. When I couldn't resist the temptation to adopt her any longer, I called the shelter, and I told them I'd be there the following morning to adopt her. My husband and I were at the shelter when it opened the next day. As we were walking to the area where the cats were kept, the shelter employee told us he stopped by every morning to visit with the cat we came to adopt. He described her as a real sweetheart. As we approached her cage, it was easy to see why he started each morning with a visit to her. She wasn't bashful about wanting attention. As soon as the cage door was open, she stepped right into my arms and secured a permanent place in my heart. Needless to say, she never returned to the cage. After we brought her home, I decided to name her S'mores. Her coat had all the colors of a s'more, and she was indeed a sweet treat. I soon realized that I should have named her Speed Bump instead. S'mores came into my life at a time when every day seemed overly hectic. I felt rushed and overloaded with obligations. S'mores brought a change to my daily routine. She made it impossible for my mornings to begin with their usual hurried manner. As soon as I got out of bed, she insisted I stop and pet her for a while. Just like the shelter employee, I couldn't disappoint her. She slowed down my morning routine just like a speed bump slows traffic. From the day of her arrival, S'mores began creating beneficial speed bump moments just for me. I have health problems, and my husband had been trying to get me to take better care of myself and to rest periodically throughout the day. S'mores solved that problem. She has become my motivation for slowing down and taking breaks. She seems to sense when my energy level is getting low or my pain level is intensifying. During those times, she vocalizes her desire for attention, or she'll pace back and forth from me in the chair I typically sit in when I'm reading or relaxing. I used to put relaxation and quiet time at the bottom of my priority list. Days often ended without me even getting to that last item on the list. Well, S'mores took care of that. The day we brought her home, she needed grooming desperately. Although I wasn't sure how she would react, I sat her on a footstool and talked to her softly and brushed her hair for a long time. She loved it. Every day since then, she has jumped onto the same footstool and waited for me to brush her hair. Brushing S'mores is never at the bottom of my priority list. The time we spend together is calming and soothing for both of us. And that's just one of the ways that S'mores acts as the speed bump I need to reset my daily routine to a more manageable pace. I was mistaken in thinking I didn't need another cat. I needed help in getting my out-of-control days under control. I needed motivation to slow down and stop pushing my body beyond its limits. S'mores helps me with those needs. I'm certain S'mores and I experienced a dual rescue. Living with us, she receives the love and attention she desires and deserves, and I have a lovable, furry speed bump to keep my days from getting out of control. Veronica Bauman. I like that story. Let's read one more cat story. We can do 2 cats, 2 dogs, okay? Let's find... Well, I was just talking about Christmas earlier, so... Meowie Christmas. Tree decorating with cats. Oh Christmas tree, your ornaments are history. Courtney Van Sickle. I can relate. I really can. Okay. My sister-in-law Carol said she'd already picked out a kitten for me. I agreed to go with her just to look. I made no promise to take one home. After all, only 2 months had passed since I lost my beloved calico Mandy. Maybe I needed to be pet-free for a while. When we got there, 3 of the 4 tuxedo kittens remained in the litter. Carol picked up one and handed it to me. The beautiful face and white fur on the right side of her nose reminded me of a harlequin mask. I mean, how could I resist? And then another kitten with a more symmetrical white face jumped into my lap and purred. Driving home in my British sports car proved difficult with 2 rambunctious kittens. One clung to my left arm and shoulder, watching the scenery zip by from the window, and the other paced back and forth from my lap to the passenger seat, hindering my ability to shift gears. Both mewed in a long duet of protest. Of course I hadn't brought a cage. I had not planned to take home a kitten, much less 2. The harlequin masked female earned the name Squeakette, with her tiny voice squeaking about every new discovery while she explored her new home. The male, lacking only a black tie in his formal attire, took the name Sebastian, from my favorite composer, Johann Sebastian Bach. A few weeks later, a neighbor helped me carry down my 6-foot artificial Christmas tree from the attic. I thanked him with a batch of cookies and then set up the tree in the corner of my living room. Sebastian and Squeakette knocked it down before I opened the box of decorations. Propping it up, I straightened the few bent wire branches back into place. As I checked for other damages, a flash of black and white fur zipped past me. Up they went, branch by branch. The tree danced a jig as the 2 kittens climbed it in tag team fashion. Sebastian made it to the top, just ahead of Squeakette. He lunged at me from the top, paws stretched out like wings. I didn't know cats could fly. Landing on my shoulder, his hind claws dug into my upper chest. The gashes bled only for a moment, and they didn't require stitches. The tree teetered from side to side, with the little female clutching the top branch. It came to rest upright, and Squeakette allowed me to pluck her trembling body from the perch, and a few minutes of cuddling calmed her fears. Among the decorations, I found an 18-inch synthetic tree I had planned to take to my office. Aha! On the opposite side of the living room, an empty place next to the wingback chair looked perfect. I dangled assorted cat toys from the branches and topped it off with a yellow mouse. I played the game of we knock it down, you pick it up, enough time to amuse them and divert their attention from the large tree. And a sprinkle of catnip on the branches helped too. How many kittens could boast about having their very own Christmas tree? I made an appointment that Saturday to have their Christmas picture taken at the local shelter. It was a fundraising activity, and they brought Santa in to pose with families and their pets. Wrestling Squeakette into the cage for transport seemed easy compared to the fight Sebastian gave me. The cardboard box with 1.5-inch holes on each side served as a temporary cage. It now bore slashes from Sebastian's claws, as it did my hands. Note to self, get gardening gloves. After doctoring my wounds and changing my clothes, we headed for the photo shoot. Squeakette emitted a few protests in the back of the cage and scowled at me. Sebastian caterwauled from his box, digging at the hole with his paw. Every traffic light gave me a chance to check on him. Yowling and digging, and then he pressed his nose into the hole. By the time I drove into the parking lot, he had made the hole large enough to get his little white face through it. I carried my 2 kittens into the building and set their carriers on the table and signed in for our appointment. Laughter exploded from the small crowd nearby. I looked down to see Sebastian's head protruding from the hole like a mounted moose head.
With a volunteer's help, we eased Sebastian's head back through the hole. The ordeal left him in a more cooperative mood. He sat still while I put the red and green plaid hair scrunchie over his head and around his neck. He even let me fluff it out. Squeakette issued a mild complaint when I slipped a red mesh scrunchie over her head. With their colorful collars in place, I realized this would be the closest I ever came to dressing them in festive costumes. Santa waited in his makeshift sled. He appeared almost agreeable as I handed him Squeakette. She gazed at him with wary eyes and then, surprisingly, nestled into the crook of his arm and purred. I took my assigned seat in front of Santa and hugged Sebastian against my chest. The photographer held up a stuffed toy. "Look this way, please." Click. "Thank you very much." Santa seemed unscathed, at least from my kittens. Later, I wonder how he fared the rest of the day when I caught a glimpse of the Great Dane that was next in line. I ordered a 5x7 for framing and a packet of photo Christmas cards to send to family and friends. With the kittens back in their respective carriers, Sebastian shied away from the head-trapping hole. Smart kitty. On the way home, he inched his way through enough to peek at me and uttered a soft mew. Note to self, get him his own cage. The pictures arrived in the mail a few days later. I grinned with pride as I looked over them. My kittens had posed like professional models. They faced the same direction, holding their little heads up as though sporting angelic halos. No smiles, but neither showed any fear. Each day, Sebastian and Squeakette gazed with wonder at the tree in my living room, decorated with blinking lights and shiny ornaments. Then they trotted to their own tree and batted the toys on the branch. Sipping a cup of hot cocoa, snuggled in my favorite chair, I took in my surroundings. The framed picture of Santa and my kittens as they played with their tree, stared at us while they played with their tree, and classical Christmas hymns flowed from the radio, reminding me of the simplest joys intended for this season. Mandy the Calico would have approved. True contentment comes in moments like these. Janet Ramsdale Rocky. That's a good story. I like that.
And now let's read Life Lessons from the Dog.
Okay.
Dogwood. There is nothing truer in the world than the love of a good dog. Author unknown.
The day my youngest brother was born, our father purchased a tree. He shoved it in the back of his Subaru Forester and drove it across town to the hospital. My mother laughed at the sight of him dragging a nearly 5-foot potted magnolia into her tiny hospital room. Dirt was everywhere. My brother, who had previously been sleeping at her bosom, woke due to her deep belly chuckle. His bright round eyes stared at the soft pink flowers, and on the first day of his life, my parents swear his tiny mouth smiled. The tree lived in our backyard, and from May to October, so did my brother. My parents liked to joke that he was the tree in many ways, blooming each spring and losing some of his spirit come autumn. When he turned 3, he memorized the words to the book The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. He was too young to read on his own, but he would sit beneath his tree and recite the story in his soft little boy voice. That tree and my brother spent more time together than most married couples do in a lifetime. Notch marks along the trunk of the tree inaccurately depicted the boy's height as he grew. He measured himself against it without second thought that the tree might also be growing. When my brother turned 5, my parents decided he needed a companion. Daily declarations such as, "When I grow up, I want to be a rock so I can be with my tree forever," had begun to worry them. One early June afternoon, my dad brought home a puppy. She had been the runt of the litter and had a diamond-shaped white spot on her chest, stark against the rest of her teeny black body. When she walked, her large puppy paws always managed to carry her body a little crookedly. Her name was Agnes, and my brother adored her. Perhaps what my parents hadn't anticipated is that Agnes would cement my brother's relationship with his tree. My brother, the tree, and Agnes, strange I know. The tree served as a place of rejuvenation for my brother and Agnes. After an afternoon of frisbee, the two would sit beneath the tree and read. He liked to make fairy houses under the tree using rocks and flowers found in the garden. At night, my mother and I would sneak out there and leave small notes for my brother and dog treats for Agnes, all from the resident fairies. Magnolia trees are known for their large blooming flowers that will cover an entire backyard when the cool breeze hits it in autumn. My brother's tree was no exception. The first fall we had Agnes, she and my brother would sweep the flowers into big piles and jump in them. They fastened flowers around their heads and pranced around the yard playing make-believe. In the winter, they would make snow forts around the tree, ensuring that no critters would cross. It was quite amazing that Agnes developed the same adoration for the tree that my brother had. When he got old enough, he'd take Agnes for runs on a paved trail that ran behind our house. Instead of holding her on a leash, my brother would hold on to one end of a branch that had fallen from the tree, and Agnes would grasp the other in her mouth. Together, the two of them would run for miles, my brother redirecting Agnes's ever-crooked gallop every few minutes. I think she would have followed him anywhere, but my brother swears that she only followed him because she knew that the branch was from their tree. The summer before my brother entered the 7th grade, Agnes's old age started to catch up with her. She stopped waiting at the front porch for my brother to get home from school, and the thump-thump of her tail against our kitchen cabinets became less common. She no longer trotted all the way to the back corner of her property, where the tree had been, to use the bathroom. The vet said it was an autoimmune disease, a few weeks at best. My brother slid off his chair and crawled over to where Agnes was quietly laying on the ground. He enveloped her in his arms and stroked the top of her soft head, thump, thump, a thump. In her last days, when she got too weak to walk on her own, my mom would carry her to the tree and let her lie in a blanket in the cool breeze. The day that my brother got off the bus and skipped into the house to find that Agnes was no longer there, his heart broke. He ran into the backyard out to the tree, and he sat with his head between his knees far past dinner time. He ran his hand up and down the trunk and felt all the notches of his youth. Despite my brother's growing and changing, the tree had always been there. We buried Agnes not long after that day. My brother wrapped his baby blanket around her body and held tightly to her paw as my dad placed her into the hole we had dug next to the tree. We each shared what we loved about Agnes. My sister was grateful that Agnes always ate her unwanted vegetables. My mother said that Agnes had always been the most intelligent and soulful of dogs. My dad loved her willingness to ride around the back of a pickup truck, and I spoke of the way she'd climb upstairs in the morning and wake me by sticking her wet nose in my face. My brother ended the ceremony with the perfect eulogy, when he took out a familiar bright green book and began to read aloud his version of the most lyrical tale. Once there was a tree, and she loved a little boy and a dog, and every day the two would come, and they would gather her leaves and make them into crowns and play kings and queens of the forest. I don't need very much love now, said the boy, just a quiet place to sit and visit my dog. Well, said the tree, straightening herself up as she could. Well, an old stump is a good place for a boy to visit and a dog to rest forever. Come, boy, and sit down. And my brother did. Lucy Barrett. Okay, it's a little bit sad, I'm sorry. Let's see if we can find a more upbeat one. No, nothing that says to the end. A bad puppy. I can live with this. I have one. The average dog has one request to all humankind. Love me. Helen Exley. I believe that. My granddaughter borrowed the little puppy from our neighbors. She only wanted to play with him for the day, she told us, and then give him back. He was a backyard-bred Chihuahua. He didn't look like his mother, father, or any of the other brown dogs they owned. He had beautiful, soft, white, long hair interspersed with large and small spots of black short hair. The next day she borrowed the puppy again. They had sold all the other puppies. He was the only one left for soil. He had been sold once, but the new owners had returned him within a week. He was a bad puppy, too hard to handle. He wasn't house-trained, and he chewed on things and was constantly biting fingers, legs, and toes with those sharp baby teeth. The next day she borrowed the puppy again. We didn't want a dog, and we especially didn't want this annoying little Chihuahua. We had recently lost Sam, our wonderful, well-trained, lovable German Shepherd mix. We were still in mourning and not ready for another dog. Then she brought the borrowed puppy home with great news. The neighbors were willing to give her the puppy for free. She was delighted, and we were torn. They wanted to get rid of the bad puppy. My granddaughter's pleading blue eyes went out, and we decided to give the puppy a home. But after 2 weeks, I was fed up. I had made no progress in training him. I have trained many dogs and had never had one so deliberately disobedient. He was not the slightest house-trained. He had the annoying habit of chewing our shoelaces as we walked, and he constantly nipped at our legs. One day, as I stood yelling no to the puppy that was attached to my shoe, my son offered to help. He went into the kitchen and retrieved 2 pan lids. The plan was for me to say no and for him to bang the lids at the same time, startling to the puppy into letting go. Ready, set, no, bang, bang, bang. The puppy didn't let go. He didn't even flinch. We tried bigger lids, a spoon banging on the pot, and a horn. No reaction. The puppy seemed to be completely deaf. We debated whether to give back the puppy. We knew nothing about deaf dogs. Was there any possibility he would ever be manageable? What if we couldn't house train him? What if he didn't stop biting? And when he got bigger, what if one of those bites was enough to draw blood? But we also knew we were the puppy's last chance, so we decided to try. We named him Toby, even though he didn't know it. I started researching how to train deaf dogs and discovered the beauty of American Sign Language. Anything one can say to a hearing dog can be communicated to a deaf dog. The first thing I taught him was the sign for look at me. 2 fingers pointed directly towards my eyes. If the puppy wasn't watching, he wouldn't know what I wanted him to do. The second thing I taught him was to sit, and it worked. He sat on command. We were ecstatic. There was hope. Then we started housebreaking. I used the defecating sign for do you want to go out, and the finger waggle to say no. He finally understood what we wanted him to do. He stopped messing in the house. With that success, many more signs followed. Some were true to their meaning. 2 fingers across the palms means let's go for a walk. Some I improvise. The shortcut I love you sign means come here and I'll scratch your backside. I probably shouldn't have taught him the bath signs because he runs and hides every time I use it. There are only a few things we do differently because Toby is deaf. If someone knocks at the door, I tell Toby that someone is there before I jump up to open it. Deaf dogs will startle easily, so I let him know what's going on ahead of time. If I want him to leave a room or come in the house at night, I flick the lights on and off quickly. But most of the time he keeps his eyes on me. I think he even keeps his eyes open when he's sleeping. Once one becomes accustomed to using sign language, it's as natural as speaking. I can say anything to Toby, from it's time to go to bed to where's your baby and his favorite do you want a treat. It's so easy to communicate that sometimes we forget he's deaf. And he's very good at conveying what he wants or needs. He has the most expressive eyes I've ever seen in a dog. Toby has become a loving cuddle bug. He has never bitten anyone, but he does like to lick. He doesn't chew on things, not even his stuffed babies. He carries them and places them around the house. He understands everything I say, sometimes to the extent I think he's reading my mind. I am so thankful that Toby came into our lives. We needed him so much, and he needed us. He filled a large hole in our hearts. We almost missed out on knowing and loving a remarkable little dog because nobody understood that he didn't understand. Today, it would be hard to recognize him as the bad puppy he used to be. Toby is a delightful and cherished member of our family. Vicky J. Linton. That sounds like a great story, doesn't it? Okay, you guys, I hope most of you are asleep. And if you're not, go to sleep. And I hope this relaxed you. And always remember, I love you